Hello and welcome to Anime Memories, and on this episode, I'm going to be talking about Croisée and a Foreign Labyrinth. While I have become a fan of slice of life over the years, my introduction to the genre wasn't that great. The first one I remember seeing was Lucky Star. I watched the first episode and said, well, that was a massive waste of time. 10 minutes on how to eat chocolate cornets. What the fuck were these people thinking? Now, if you like Lucky Star, that's absolutely fine, but it just wasn't my thing, and it caused me to dismiss all slice of life as pointless fluff. However, later on down the line, there were a few shows that helped change my opinion, and Croisée is one of them. The anime is set in the late 1800s, where a young Japanese girl named Yune has travelled to Paris to work as an apprentice in a sign-making shop. Being that she's unfamiliar with France, every time she steps outside it basically turns into an adventure where she learns something new. With the help of her host family, Claude and Oscar, Yune goes on many of these adventures over the course of the show and discovers a lot of different things about Paris. Being that Yune is a Japanese girl living in France, there's a fair amount of focus on the differences between the two cultures. This is where the majority of the comedy comes from, and it was surprisingly effective. It was always funny watching Yune try and eat cheese, and seeing the people of France get confused with Japanese customs was very amusing as well.
Yune と申します。ご主人様。
It's not all about jokes though. The cultural barriers also act as the source for most of the drama. For example, Yune is always extremely nice and cheerful when greeting someone, which is common practice in Japan. But this behaviour frightens the Paris locals, who are very cautious of people they don't know, especially when they're overly enthusiastic. This causes Yune to start doubting the people of Paris. How could they be repulsed when they're shown kindness? There are multiple scenes like this, and I loved how this show handled them. Both points of view are usually understandable, and neither of them are presented as wrong. I believe that the message here is that we should respect people of other cultures, even if we don't fully understand them. On top of that, the anime also talks about socioeconomic status and how the amount of money you have doesn't define what kind of person you are. Many people often think the rich are a bunch of selfish bastards who see everyone else as cretins who are beneath them. And I'll admit that I'm very guilty of this fuck the rich mentality as well. However, there are quite a few good-hearted rich characters in here that disprove my previous statement. While they certainly have rather large egos, they aren't horrible people, and they're pretty caring towards others. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, this anime shows that poor people aren't all conniving and untrustworthy. There was this one street kid in here that only has a single line, and I felt for him more than any other character. He doesn't have a home, he doesn't have any parents, and he probably doesn't know how to read or write, so stealing is the only way he can afford to buy food. And yet when Yune tells him that he shouldn't steal, he starts hesitating. How could you not feel for someone like that? This anime has a very liberal mindset, which is cool because it aligns with my own views of the world. Another thing that I thought was nice was that this has the exact same atmosphere as one of my favourite slice of life anime, Aria. When watching it, I was always excited to see new places within Neo-Venezia, and Croisée gave me that same feeling. I loved learning about all the places within Paris and the different intricacies of Paris life. The biggest difference between the two is that Aria had story progression. It wasn't much, but the characters were always working towards the goal of becoming qualified gondoliers. Croisée doesn't really have any story progression to speak of. There is continuity, but it's basically just a bunch of self-contained events that happen one after the other. This didn't affect my enjoyment too much, however, I could see it being extremely frustrating to other anime fans. If you're one of those people that got pissed off at My Neighbor Totoro because nothing happens in it, you're probably not going to like this either. Now, while there isn't any story progress in here, there is a bit of character progression, although it's only a very slight amount. The protagonist Yune would have to be one of the most adorable characters I've seen in a long time. She is full of wonder. Every time she makes a new discovery, she gets this massive smile on her face. And it's so damn cute. She's also very respectful and is determined to follow French customs, even if it makes life harder for her. The problem is that she doesn't really change all that much. Even though she becomes more knowledgeable over the course of the story, at the end she's still the same person she was at the beginning. And this is pretty much the case for the rest of the cast. The only character that undergoes a significant amount of change is Claude. He is very abrasive and is often used to present the opposing belief to whatever message the show is trying to convey. But once he warms up to Yune, which doesn't take very long, he gradually softens as he comes around to her more optimistic way of thinking. While his abrasiveness is always there, he definitely becomes much kinder by the time everything is said and done. When it comes to the visuals, I have to give the creators props on the beautiful architecture in here. The buildings are gorgeous and they look like they belong in 19th century Paris. The character designs also look like they match the time period. The men are dressed in suits while the women have these frilly dresses on. The only character design that I had issues with was Yune's. Now it's time for a bit of audience participation. I would like you guys to have a look at this picture of Yune and try and guess what her age is. I'll give you 5 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
13. She's a teenager. This is something that I never would have guessed. She looks like she's 6. I get that they wanted to give her this youthful, cute appearance, but I think they went a bit overboard here. She looks too young. Finally, we have the music, which is slow and relaxing, as you'd expect from a slice of life anime. And it's yet another aspect that fits with the setting since the score is primarily made up of classical tracks. If you listen to it on its own, the music's nothing special, but when it's playing in the background while Yune's being adorable, it adds a ton of charm to the scene. While Croisée in A Foreign Labyrinth isn't going to give you this epic, thought-provoking story, it will give you a lot of heartwarming moments that will be sure to put a smile on your face. If you find slice of life boring, then this won't change your mind. However, if you enjoy anime that take an upbeat look at everyday experiences, chances are you'll love this just as much as I did. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave a comment, and if you like this video and want to see more, feel free to subscribe as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.